it became apparent that we needed to rethink how the New England Journal did things, because we were moving into the internet age, and the internet age certainly is one of the major things that's changed in our lifetime in medicine. So we needed to sort of reassemble ourselves in a way that made it possible for us to be at the forefront of moving print journalism into the internet age, and that required some difficult shifts in personnel and some difficult changes in how we thought about what we needed to do going forward, which all worked out for the best. I had the, in that saga that went on for a number of years, I had the pleasure of being the co-chairman with Ron Arkey of selecting a new journal editor, which was the pleasant part of all of that, and we found Jeff Drazen, who's been a wonderful editor, and who very much understood the dynamic of what we needed to move towards. And so I take great pleasure in knowing that we did that. And then when later on, sort of similar things were going on at the level of the medical society staff, eventually Corinne Broderick, who turned out to be an excellent leader of the society for many, many years, was brought in, and I see that as something that gave me great pleasure as the years went by. And I've lost my train of what the question was here.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were talking about the change.
The changes.
At the medical society.
The changes well, in medicine in general, that the internet brought in. I mean, when you and I were going to medical school and starting at the medical society and so forth, if you wanted to know something and you didn't know it right off the top of your head, you had to say, excuse me, to the patient, go out to your room, quickly thumb through a book as fast as you could to try to find the answer. You didn't have something in your pocket you could pull up and see it in a matter of seconds. If you were talking to your doctor as a patient, and you mentioned some other drugs that you were taking, and when they were thinking of prescribing something for you, they didn't have the internet right in front of them that said, okay, that drug is contraindicated with this drug. So the internet is a huge change in the way practice is done, in the way all information is disseminated, medical and otherwise. And that doctors now, with all of the Facebooks and Snapchats or whatever, have to deal with, not only is there a lot of information available, there's a heck of a lot of misinformation available, and it's very difficult sometimes to tell which is which.
Yes.
And to make sure that sources like the New England Journal, when you read it on the internet, you're really reading what the New England Journal wanted to put up there, and not some fake person wanted to put up to make everyone think that their drug was great or something. So dealing with the internet's been huge. Dealing with certain infectious diseases like Zika and AIDS. I mean, AIDS became known when I was an intern, and we had some early AIDS patients because I was at the Deaconess, which is where Jerome Groopman was at that time, who was one of the forefathers of thinking about how to deal with AIDS. And when the first patients came in, we put on, so it's like we were going to the moon. To even walk to the door of the room, you thought this infection was going to jump out and get you. So things have really progressed on many fronts during our tenure in medicine.
And the journal's been in the forefront of that.
Right, the journal has very much been in the forefront of that. So,
Tell me about your feelings about the time with Ron Arkey when the two of you were leading the effort to
Well, that
find a new
was so,
future for our
for me,
job?
that was so much fun, because Ron Arkey had contacts all over the world, or access to contacts with all over the world, who knew who were the powers to be, the people that needed to be on the committee and so forth. I didn't know any of them. I'm Dr. X from the community hospital, sitting there. And, but because I didn't know any of them, I didn't have any background with them, good, bad, or indifferent. They were extremely interesting people who led very interesting lives. Knew a lot of people personally I was never going to cross paths with otherwise. And we sat in conference rooms once a month at first, and I think more frequently toward the end with smaller groups of us. And I physically led the meetings in terms of, well, Jack, we haven't heard what you think. What is your thinking about this? Or Sam, what do you think about that, coming from your point of view or something? So I learned an enormous amount that I would not have learned, both about these people, about thinking of people from their personal thinking about issues, but also totally different ways of looking at issues because of where they came from. It was somebody from Holland, I think, somebody from the Netherlands rather, but there was there were the head of the Institute of Medicine. There were all kinds of interesting people on that committee. And
were you surprised that when the committee was formed and you had this high-powered academic figure, Ron Arkey, that you were asked to co-chair that with him on a co-equal basis? That committee was that,
I was surprised. I knew him because he had been one of my favorite teachers and mentors in medical school.
But why you?
I don't know. I say I
Were
don't.
you surprised at that?
Well, not as surprised because I was already in the chain for becoming president.
Yeah.
So I was going to be the one who was going to be living with the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, you were living with the decision too, but he didn't actually come in until after, at the very end of my tenure. I think didn't we introduce him at the end of my tenure? I believe.
When my time and your time crossed,
right.
That was when he was introduced.
It was introduced.
Right.
So probably you put me up for it. At the bottom line, you probably,
I actually did.
You probably put me up for it. I'm sorry, I was
But there was
slow in the uptake
but
there.
But it wasn't me. You had a very, very special place there. Because your role was to anchor the future of the journal to the practicing caregivers.
Physician.
And Ron, wonderful academic person, but you're the person in the foxhole of life. And you did that with great, great skill.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
That was one of those things I've enjoyed in life, is to say, really getting the boys together.
Wherever you go,
getting the boys together.